Son of God, verse 37, if I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. But if I do, though ye believe not me, believe the works, that ye may know and believe that the Father is in me and I am in him. All right, now listen to this. And so Yahweh Shah was saying in the scriptures, the Most High called us God. He called us angels, messengers, judges. And so they couldn't do nothing with it. The Bible said that they didn't deal with them no more after that. Let me see. So after Yahweh Shah put them in their place by, defending his works and the words he was saying with the scriptures, they couldn't do nothing with him. Because he's letting them know that the words say that we are gods. And yes, I am a God. That's what he was saying. The Father called us gods. We the angels that left our first state that Jude 6 is talking about. So they couldn't do nothing with Yahweh Shah. And so that's what we are today. We are those fallen angels. The men of the Most High that's out here teaching his word. You so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you are those angels that left their first state. All right, let's go to, matter of fact, let's just go back to Genesis 1. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 6. And let's go from there. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 6 right quick. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 6. Genesis chapter 6 and verse 1. And I'm going to get into this thing a little bit. And it came to pass when men, this is Genesis chapter 6 verse 1. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. So when it talk about men beginning to multiply on the face of the earth, that's talking about, that's not talking about the sons of men. That's not talking about the people of the Most High, the descendants of Adam. That's talking about the other nations that was on the earth at that time. Because there wasn't just one person in the garden. So we're going to get into that too. Salakia. We're going to get into who those trees were in the garden. You know what I'm saying? What the Most High mean by those trees in the garden. Who was those trees? Because those trees represents different nations, other men. So we're going to get into all that. And so when it says that daughters was born unto them, daughters was born unto the other nations in the garden. And it was really talking about, when you know what was going on back then, the people that was in the garden with Israel, who was in the garden with Israel? Who was the people that we ran into Israel and we had to run out of the land? The Canaanites, Tyre and Zidon. That was the nation that was in the garden at the time that we was in the garden. The Canaanites was in the garden. That's why the Most High told us don't marry their daughters. Don't give our children unto their daughters. That was talking about the Canaanites. And all through the Bible, it talks about us staying away from the Canaanites. And we're going to get into that a little bit. Genesis chapter 6, 1, verse 1. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. So when we began to have sex and, children was being born, there was a lot of daughters being born at that time. That's why the Most High say, be fruitful and multiply. Verse 2, that the sons of God, that's you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, that's them fallen angels, that's us. That's them Israelites, them Hebrews, Israelites. That the sons of God saw the daughters of men. See, that's where they get that angels falling from heaven and sleeping with, regular women, which would be, angels don't even have a sexual desire. So this is some stupid, the angels that's up there in the spiritual realm with the Most High. So, but it says that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair. That means that they was beautiful. You know what I'm saying? These women that these Hamites was having, these Canaanites was having, their daughters looked good, man. They was nice. They had nice butts, nice breasts, pretty faces, that they was fair. And they took them wives of all which they chose. And that's us. us Israelites, we began to sleep with these Canaanite women. Not just the chosen stock of Israel, the descendants of Adam and Seth, began to sleep with the women of the other nation that was also in the garden. All right, listen right here, verse 3. And Yahweh said, my spirit shall not always strive with men, for that he also is flesh. That means he was worldly. You know, we was being worldly because the Most High told us don't deal with those women of the people in the garden. He told us to deal with our own people. But we was flesh, we was being carnal, and we dealt with these women anyway. So the Most High said, verse 3, and Yahweh said, my spirit shall not always strive with men, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. And that's when we got a limit unto our age. Because we used to live for a while. So the Most High said, all right, at the 120 years, since we don't want to be obedient to him and not sleep with the other women outside of our nation, he's going to cut our lifespan down to 120 years. All right. And it says, let me go over here, and it says, verse 34. Let me go over here right quick. The reason why the Most High told us don't deal with these women, because when you go to Deuteronomy chapter 7 is letting you know who those women were that was in the garden, that the Most High told us don't deal with them. Matter of fact, let's go to Deuteronomy. Don't deal with those other nations. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7 and 1. Deuteronomy 7 and 1. Let's go here. All right, Deuteronomy 7 and 1. This is why the Most High told us don't. This is why he got mad at us for dealing with these women that was in the garden, because these women was the Canaanite women. All right, let's read Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1. When Yahweh thy power shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and had cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Gergesites, and the Amorites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. See, these other nations that was in the garden when we was in the garden. He says, verse 2, and when Yahweh thy power shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Verse 3, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters shall not be given unto his sons, nor his daughters shall not take unto thy sons. And so that's what we was doing. We began to sleep with these nations right here. These 7 nations that the Most High told us not to deal with. And so when we went into captivity, once we fell, and we was about to go back into the Garden of Eden, Israel, the Canaanites were still there. So he was telling us again through Moses, listen, do not deal with these people, these heathens, these other nations. That's what got you kicked out the garden the first time. All right? And so we're going to get into this thing a little deeper. All right, this video about to cut off, so we're going to get into it a little deeper in part 2.